The big task of this legislative short session is the budget. What progress is being made on a budget which is supposed to begin July 1st?
Well, very, very good progress in spite of, as you mentioned, some of the challenges that they're facing with the virtual meetings and those kind of things. It's worked surprisingly well. But Tom, as far as the budget is concerned, it's a little bit more complicated than that. And there's really three different budgets going on here. First of all, we have the money that's come into North Carolina from the CARES Act, from the federal government. It's a total of about $4 billion. Now, this money has got direct pathways to it. There's a lot of strings attached to it, if you would. So far, they've spent about $1.6 billion of that. A big part of this budgeting that they're doing this session is allocating some more of that money. That money has to be spent by the end of the year. And again, this is for immediate needs due to the pandemic. The second thing they've been dealing with is the budget just for this year that will end next week. They've come up $1.6 billion short of revenue because of the economic shutdown of the entire economy. You know, sales tax is the main driver of that. So that's the second piece of this budgeting, is how do you stretch this out to get through this current fiscal year? And then, as you mentioned, putting together the budget for next year. And it's looking like, you know, we're going to be 3, 4, could be as far as $5 billion revenue shortfall over the next couple of years. So the challenge, as Governor Perdue knows, is how do you put together a budget when you've got that kind of revenue shortfall? And I'll tell you, they have done so far a surprisingly good job with these mini budgets that they're doing to get over to the governor's office. We're watching a lot of this too to see what the governor vetoes, what he signs into law. But in answer to your question, the progress on the budget on all three of these fronts is going remarkably well.
I have not heard any discussion about, in any large measure, is budget cuts, furloughs, layoffs, are they on the table?
Well, you've heard budget cuts. I mean, that's what everybody's talking about. There've already been some reductions. The governor, I think, waited too long, but he did institute some constraints on spending a few weeks ago. Cuts are coming, as Governor Perdue said. Furloughs are coming. In some cases, are already planned, just as in the private sector. I think one of the big things that was mentioned briefly, but I want to expand on quickly, is the ability of North Carolina to use federal funds in the most efficient way. The way the Congress set up the initial wave of funding was fairly tightly constrained.
Yes.
And we've got to consider the fact that a very obvious and devastating impact of the coronavirus pandemic and the response to it is that lots of local governments are teetering on the brink of disaster.
Exactly.
In some cases, in small towns, some places that they actually are facing what would amount to bankruptcy, certainly insolvency. We've got to be able to figure out a solution to get through that. And ability to use federal funds to their highest efficient use, I think, has got to be something that Congress acts on so that the states can figure it out properly.